in 2005. And at the end, they say NITA is a group of ladies of all ages, nationalities, and gender. And this is just taken off their website, and I'm like, what is it you're saying? It seemed odd for a group that was dedicated to subversive knitting to be sort of uninclusive, or a sort of strange nod toward inclusivity. I'd love to see more guys knitting. I'd love to see more women programming. Maybe we can work out a deal. You know, just as much as when women show up at geek conferences, they get attention, men get attention from women knitters. So if that, you know, helps any of you want to learn to knit, more power to you. Think about it. There's a question in the back.
I was wondering why you didn't mention one point, which is also an intersection between knitting and hacking. I thought there's a piracy issue with knitting patterns for knitting machines.
Yes, they're for machines, but also for patterns in general. I debated about whether I was going to bring that up as a main point in the talk, but I'd be happy to mention it. I want to put up something pretty again. Here, I'll put that up again. So there's a lot of discourse in the knitting community about copyright, and a lot of it is very mushy-headed, just to be frank. So there are people who say, oh, you stole my sock pattern, and, you know, oh, I trademarked that, or I patented that. And people are just sort of tossing around words that they've heard about, like, oh, you can't steal my thing. But the process of knitting a sock, for instance, is actually not trademarkable or copyrightable. The exact language that you use to describe your pattern is, and so somebody can't publish, you know, they can't plagiarize your pattern, but somebody can look at your sock or your garment and reverse engineer it, and that's not illegal. It may, if the pattern is very distinctive, it may be immoral, but that's a different issue. And I've found fascinating the sort of ways that people talk about this in the knitting world. Many knitters, well, a percentage of knitters are starting to use Creative Commons licenses for their patterns, the ones who are aware of them, and that usually handles what it is they want to do, which is that they'd like attribution if somebody knits their pattern or uses it for something. But, you know, the dollar numbers are not high on, you know, just a pattern that you put out in the world. And really, I think people are more upset about attribution than they are about getting paid. There's also a problem with orphan works. So there's an enormous quantity of printed literature from the first half of the 20th century that is still in copyright due to American copyright laws being fucked up. And a lot of that material can't get accessed because the companies that printed it are no longer in business. And so you can't actually get to a copyright holder to say, may I have permission to print your material? And that sucks. You know, even if I disparage some of those early knitting patterns, I think that they should still be available to people to learn from and to use. How are we doing for time? I see people going back and forth, so can a room monitor tell me how we're doing? There's a question up front.
You just said that publishing a pattern that you reverse engineered from a knitted object would not be a copyright infringement. Is that not still a derived work, derived two steps, first the object from the pattern and then the reverse engineered pattern from the object? I think legally that would still probably be seen as a derived work.
I do see your point. I'm not the person to ask. for the really detailed answer on that. There are a couple, there's a woman whose blog is The Girl from Auntie, and she's a copyright lawyer and knitter who has spoken very clearly on some of these issues. And you're holding a nice object, so I didn't know if you were going to say something about it.
This is a knitted companion cube, for anyone who has played the game Portal. So my girlfriend made me this for Christmas. The design for this one is released under a Creative Commons license, and you can find it at knittedcompanioncube.blogspot.com.
Aww. It's really lovely. And yay, Creative Commons licensed knitting patterns. Well, I'm really excited about the talk. I mean, about your response to the talk, and I hope you were excited by the talk. It's been great being here, and I'm just so delighted that there's room at C3 for people who aren't the hardest core Linux hackers, but who have sort of other things to bring to the discussion. So thank you for coming.